They walked out of Egypt on the strength of miracles. A whole nation carried on eagle's wings. The sea had opened. Bread had fallen from heaven. Fire led them by night, and yet almost none of them would live to enter the promised land. This is the story of the wilderness generation, how they lost the land not to giants, but to their own unbelief, and how, even as they fell, God never stopped being faithful. It began at the edge of everything. Canaan lay before them, the land of milk and honey. All they had to do was walk in and take it. So Moses chose 12 men, one from every tribe, and sent them in to see the land. For 40 days they searched it, and it was good, richer than they had dreamed. In one valley they cut a cluster of grapes so heavy it took 2 men to carry it on a pole. But they saw the cities too, high walls, iron gates, and they saw the people of the land, giants towering over them like ancient oaks. 10 of the 12 came back pale with fear. Beside them we seemed like grasshoppers, and the whole camp broke. They wept through the night and turned on Moses. "Why bring us here to die? Let us go back to Egypt." But 2 would not stay silent. Caleb and Joshua stood before the raging crowd. "The land is good, very good. Do not be afraid. The Lord is with us." But the people picked up stones to kill them. Then the glory of the Lord blazed over the tent of meeting, and every voice fell silent. And God spoke, "Not one of this generation who would not trust me will enter the land. 40 days you explored it. So 40 years you will wander, until this generation is laid to rest in the sand." Only Caleb and Joshua, who believed, would walk in. The land was right there. They could see it, and they lost it, not to giants, but to fear. So the wandering began, and the bitterness turned inward. In the heart of the camp, a rebellion rose. His name was Korah, a Levite who stood close to holy things and wanted more. He gathered 250 leaders of Israel and marched them to the tent of Moses. "You have gone too far," they said. "The whole nation is holy. Who made you a prince over us?" Moses fell on his face. Then he rose. "Tomorrow the Lord himself will show who belongs to him. Each of you take a censer and stand before the Lord, and we will see whom he chooses." At dawn they came, 250 censers glowing. And Moses said, "If these men die an ordinary death, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the ground opens beneath them, you will know they have despised the Lord." The words were still in his mouth when the earth trembled. The ground split with a roar and opened its mouth and swallowed them, the men, their households, everything, down, alive, into the dark. Then the earth closed over them, and they were gone. To fight the order God had set was to fight the very ground they stood on. Year after year, the desert wore them down. And at the desert of Zin, the water ran out again. The people gathered against Moses the way they always did. "Why did you bring us here to die?" Moses and Aaron fell on their faces at the tent, and the glory of the Lord appeared. "Take the staff," God said gently. "Speak to that rock, and it will pour out its water." So Moses gathered the assembly before the great rock, but something in him had broken. 40 years of complaints, 40 years of this, and the anger rose up and took him. "Listen now, you rebels," he shouted. "Must we bring you water out of this rock?" And he raised his hand and struck the rock, twice, when God had only told him to speak. And still, such is God's mercy, water came gushing out across the sand, and the people and their animals drank their fill. But the Lord's word to Moses was heavy. "Because you did not trust me, because you did not honor me as holy before the people, you will not bring them into the land." The man who stood before Pharaoh, the man who split the sea, he would see the promised land, but never enter it. Even Moses would lay his bones in the wilderness. Still the road went on, the long way around Edom, and the people's patience burned away like water in the sun. Once more they turned on God. There is no bread, there is no water, and we are sick to death of this miserable manna. They had been fed from heaven and guided by fire, and they called it miserable. So the Lord let the desert show its teeth. Out of the rocks came serpents, fiery serpents, their bite like burning venom. They struck through the camp, and many died. And the survivors ran to Moses, shaking, "We have sinned, pray for us." So Moses prayed, and God answered, but not the way they expected. He did not take the serpents away. "Make a serpent of bronze," he said, "and lift it high on a pole, and anyone who is bitten has only to look and live." So Moses forged a serpent of gleaming bronze and raised it high in the middle of the camp. And a dying man, the venom burning through him, turned his head with his last strength and looked up, and the burning stopped, and he lived. All across the camp, the dying lifted their eyes and were healed, not by medicine, not by struggle, but by one look of faith toward what God had lifted up. And centuries later, Jesus would say, "Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever looks to him will not perish, but live." Look and live. And all the while, unknown to the people in the sand, they were guarded by a hand they never saw. On the plains of Moab, a king named Balak looked down from his walls in terror at the nation filling the valley below. He could not fight them, so he decided to curse them. He sent for a famous seer named Balaam and offered him a fortune to doom Israel. But God warned him plainly, "Do not go, do not curse them, for they are blessed." Yet the gold pulled at the prophet's heart, and in the morning he saddled his donkey and went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the road, a sword drawn and blazing in his hand. Balaam saw nothing, but the donkey saw. 3 times she turned aside to save his life, and 3 times Balaam beat her. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and she spoke. "What have I done to you that you have beaten me?" And the great seer stood arguing with his own donkey, too blind to wonder why she could speak. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel, the drawn sword, filling the road, and he fell on his face in the dust. "Go," the angel said, "but speak only the words I give you." So the man who came to curse Israel opened his mouth, and out came blessing again and again, because no curse on earth can undo what God has blessed. Even under discipline, that generation was still his own. And so the 40 years ran out. One by one, the generation that trembled at the edge was laid to rest beneath the sand, just as God had said. But the story did not end in the desert. Their children had grown up tall in the wilderness, raised on the manna, led by the fire, taught by every grave they passed what unbelief costs. And when the wandering was over, it was Joshua and Caleb, the 2 who had believed, who led them to the banks of the Jordan, the promised land, shining green beyond. The fathers lost it to their fear, but the promise never died, for the faithfulness of God is not undone by the failure of one generation. What he swears, he keeps, even if he must raise a new people to receive it. The wilderness could bury a generation. It could not bury the promise.